Lord always gives you more than you ask for. Just follow the process, just follow the direction, and believe in what you ask for. Believe in your God. Your God is the same God yesterday, today, forever. This is the Lord that has that. He is there for you. You're his child.
And that was Leyland King. Leland is the founder of K9 King Security and Bailiff Services, K9 King Property Management, and Errand Services, just to name a few of his endeavors. He's also a loving husband and father of 5 children and 6 grandchildren. He's also a leader in the Hawthorn Memorial Methodist Church here in Barbados, and he played a key role in revamping their men's ministry to what it is today. All of this by a man who was far from an academic growing up and didn't quite have much of a formal education past secondary school. We talked about how he was able to find purpose and direction in life, staying grounded in the church, and how he was able to pioneer a thriving men's ministry at his home church. I hope you enjoy. So you would have had a conversation earlier last week, and one of the things that really stuck out to me was how much focus you had, how much you were able to find your purpose despite not following a very traditional path regarding to education, that kind of stuff. That was really fascinating to me. How were you able to really find your purpose without having a degree and saying, this is what I want to do?
And it comes from listening to people. I had an encounter with we were having a meeting for hurricane relief, and the church is a hurricane relief center, disaster relief center, and one of the people that came for the ministry was asking who was the shelter warden, and I think I was sexton in the church then, and the steward said, well, Mr. King is shelter warden, and he said, well, he's the sexton, and he said, I don't want a person that can make a decision or ain't qualified well with kids to be shelter warden. And even though I was bothered enough that it just pushed me in another direction. I was, I think in my 20s, early 30s, was married, 3 children. The job at the church was not offering me a whole lot of salary, right? I was working then with a laundry as well at like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, then I would come to the church. So I was always doing something to really improve myself. But there's some things that I learned now in retrospect. There's a verse or quote that I like to use. Your opinion of me is not my reality. I think that sums it up for me. His opinion of me was not my reality. And I set about to, from then, changing. Even before then, they changed in my life. I was always doing the church, affording me opportunity to work for myself. I'm sexton, so I'm in charge of the church maintenance. I'm in charge of cleaning. I'm in charge of making sure things are done. So that propelled me. At the laundry, I was in charge of, I would work in the morning by myself, 2 or 3 o'clock by myself. I'd be running 2 50-pound machines, a couple of dryers. But that's where my spiritual walk came in terms of you're by yourself, you learn to talk to yourself, learn to talk to the Lord. And one thing the Lord taught me one morning was self-worth. I was working one morning and I realized that a couple of days before I was late, I didn't come to work.
Yeah.
And the laundry was backed up till I came in following day. And dawned on me that irrespective of qualifications or whatever, I have self-worth.
All right.
And I start to move from there. I spent a number of years at the church, 40 years at the church. I guess the Lord always has a plan for you.
Right.
You just have to buy into his plan, know what it is. I spent the years learning at church, working, doing a lot of stuff, being involved in the youth,
Right.
being involved in the young adults, being involved in the men's fellowship, being involved in choir, but always in a leadership capacity.
Yeah.
So there's always something that was driving me. Eventually through prayer and guidance, and I would pray to get ahead, to find a job that gives me a future,
Right.
realizing that I had limited possibilities. And in Christ I am, I don't have to struggle to be. Means that the Lord puts you in a position where you do not, how should we say? He puts you in an area where technically you don't belong.
Right.
Everything that's here say you don't belong here. But you fit in and you do the job and you do it, whatever the case may be. So each area I went into, academically, I did not belong.
Yeah.
But the ability was, and God's strengthened me, I belong, the job was done, they made it happen, whatever the case is. I went from the church into Carrington City Attorneys at Law. And I was always praying for, I said, Lord, just give me a foot in any doorway, any job. Just put my foot in the door. I can do the rest. So I went to Carrington City when Reverend Common John's wife, she was a secretary there.
Right.
And they moved into Carrington City. I went there for 3 weeks. I left there after 14 years. When I left Carrington City, I came into my own business. I left there and went to run my own business. When I went to Carrington City, so what you would call me a block boy. I was opening blocks. I was working at church, but
On the block.
I know now about the office.
Yeah.
I don't know what a computer was, what a typewriter was. The fellas lay me in, and I at church, but these things I doing manual stuff. I the ordinary man, like cut grass, cut the lawn, whatever the case may be. I look back at when we spoke the other day, look back in terms of where I've come from.
Yeah.
I mean, the church had a number of properties. I cut the lawns for the church for $15 a month.
Right.
$15 a month I cut the lawns at the church for. Think about that. That's me. I'd be cutting the lawns and stuff at the church, doing all kinds of stuff like that. To move from that to go into an office setting, not any office setting, but move into Carrington City Attorneys at Law.
All right.
What do you know about law? What do you know about computers and whatever the case is?
So
I went as a messenger. When I went, Mr. Blackman looked at my, one of the guys at church put together his CV for me, whatever. I had a certificate of school, what we call a school certificate, which had a couple of subjects on it.
Yeah.
I had the experience of what I had done before, put that together, and so I went with that. Chris Blackman looked at it. He said, okay, you're married, you have children, we need a messenger. Mr. Grimes is going on vacation, you'll be it.
All right.
And the rest began from there. When the first 3 weeks was over, I went to Mr. Blackman and said, thank you for being there, blah, blah, blah. He said to me, there's another clerk going on vacation, learn how to clerk.
Yeah.
And we had 10 clerks, so that went on for the last couple months. And so I was working there every day, not knowing where
you would end up.
Where it would end up. I just working. So I figured when the last person goes on vacation, I would go home.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, Mr. Blackman said to me, if we close for a week, you will go home and come back to Carrington City. I went home and come back. In January, BS&T had a job opening, was applying for it. I went to Mr. Cummins, the attorney, and they said, well, hey, I want to play this job. He wrote me a job letter. He went downstairs and told another attorney, Mr. King is leaving. And she went upstairs and spoke to Mr. Blackman and then offered me a position. I was there. And it's just how God moved in your life. What I remember, I just wanted a place. I asked him to put my foot in the door.
Yeah.
And they would do the rest.
Yeah.
He put my foot in the door. At Carrington City, I was given the opportunity to, remember, I know nothing about office.
Yeah.
Computers, nothing. I had to learn. I went to do, and so this is me. No secondary education, really. I don't think I met Stephen for a little. I don't think Stephen knew that. Stephen was the president of Spring Memorial.
Right.
I was his vice president. I don't think he knew my background or my personality. But that's where it came from. He would tell you that meeting me, we're still friends. Meeting me, I think only he would not know what I'm telling you now. Yeah. But that's what it was. When you met me, you would never know what the case may be.
Right.
That's how the Lord moved in my life, where I did not feel inferior. If God's in control, you can't be inferior.
Yeah.
You have to be at a level whereby he leads the way. And for me, my life has always been led by him. Going forward in terms of the Carrington City and learning. They had to learn about computers. They had to learn how to buy computers. They had to learn how to manage the office in terms of maintenance. In that time, I got involved in security. I got involved in event security. Once again, knowing nothing about security, wanting an extra job to make some money. And I got involved in, my brother introduced me to doing security at night. That led me to where I am today. Today I run a company called Leyland King Security and Bailiff Services. Out of that, I have 3 subsidiaries. I have errand services, Leyland King's property management and maintenance services. And I'm a licensed private investigator. I'm a licensed bailiff. So all of that has come from a man who did not have any formal education, well, the case may be, any secondary education. But I've always said to the Lord, bring me in the area that I can use what skills and talents I have. He's always pointed me to a direction where I can achieve and I can grow. Mind you, I would have gone since then and did some studies, doing some other stuff. Not the ability is there, just that I came along a time when that was not important to me. But the Lord has brought me through all that stuff in terms of where I want to. I listen to my God. He speaks and I listen. I follow him. We're not always obedient in terms of what the case may be. But if you look and say, well, I want to do this, I tell people, be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you ask the Lord for you will get it. It's how you will deal with it when you get it, if you really want it. And for me, direction was the thing. Hearing people say that you don't have whatever the case is. So if you don't have the qualifications, that means that's it for you. All over, right, so that you can be successful. But here I am. I turned 60 yesterday. 60 years old. I have made $1 million in my life more than twice. My home in secondary school, run your own business, that don't happen. It happens.
People will be looking at that and be like, yeah, how did he do that? And one of the things that really struck out to me is, I guess, comparing this to even like some of the people that we see in the Bible, some of the disciples, and like a guy like Peter. Nobody thinking Peter, a guy, he just fishing. He gonna be the next big apostle, the next big religious somebody. And yeah, the way that through Jesus, he was able to find that direction. I think it's really amazing that that you were always close to the church and your relationship with God clearly, led you in some path.
Does it feel like, and I didn't necessarily choose the field. I've not chosen, in my mind I've said I would like to do this. But wherever I have gone, I am led to go. All my successes I have attributed to the way I walk and how I communicate with God. When I wanted a house years ago, I would go to housing and I would talk with people every day. One day, the lady said to me, "We can't give you a house." I came back home and the Lord said, "Start at the top." He said, "Lord, you don't build a house, we start at the top." That was my analogy. That's me. I say, "But you don't build a house, start at the top." So I called the Minister of Housing. I called the minister. The lady said to me, "We can't help you, you need to call housing." I came on the phone, the Lord said, "I tell you, start at the top." And I was saying at the mass, start at the top.
It still made
I
no
said, "The
sense
Prime
to
Minister
you.
office." I said, "All right, dial the number." The lady said, "You should be calling me back and call you back in 5 minutes." In 5 minutes, the lady from housing called me back. He told me what to do. I did it. I went from not living anywhere in a week's time. But listening to God, I had a house in the following week.
Wow.
Start at the top. I listened. And the point about, we need to listen to our Father and obey. We listen. Do we hear? Do we obey? We need to listen. We need to hear, and we need to obey, and we need to trust. So if he says, walk down the road and whatever the case may be, I don't, if I wake up in the morning, for some reason I cannot get through my door, I don't go. If every time I go to the door, something pulls me back. I know where. I say, Lord, this is your day. You direct where I go. You direct the day. You direct whatever the case may be. And inevitably, if I go against His will, there's always something that happens that she could avoid if you just follow His direction. And in life, He gives us clear guidelines that if we look, we can understand.
Yeah.
He speaks to us every day. Do we listen?
Yeah. I think that is definitely important to know, like what to listen for, because I guess we have grown up in such a time where, you know, we have daily planners, you have schedules for everything, you can map out every second of your day, every life decision. I remember watching this movie, The Little Prince, where the mother of this girl had everything in her life mapped out for the next how many ever years, and she had to follow this schedule. And I think that as much as our minds develop and we learn to find our own direction and to map out everything, that it's still important to have that trust in God, trust in that Holy Spirit inside of us, that, you know, if we feel like, yeah, I really have a bad thing about this, you know, something, as you say, something is keeping me home, something is telling me stay back, to listen to it, even if it goes against what our brain and all the intelligence will be telling us. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense.
Because God is not in the thunder and lightning.
No.
He's always in the still small voice. So we need to remember that we are His temple. This is His temple, and we worship Him in spirit and in truth. And if we worship Him and we are sincere in our worship, this how we talk with you, we talk with God.
Yeah.
Because relationship, Christianity is a personal thing. Your God is salvation, a personal thing between you and the Lord. And every day, whether you're on your knees or you stand up, is a personal thing. Your experience is not my experience. What drives me will not necessarily drive you. But we pray, we commune. So if we ask for a banana, the Lord gives us a tree. But Lord, He asks for a banana though. But He gives you the banana tree.
Yeah.
So you have bananas for you, you have bananas for someone else. The Lord always gives you more than you ask for. Just follow the process, just follow the direction, and believe in what you ask for. Believe in your God. Your God is the same God yesterday, today, forever. This is the Lord that has that. He is there for you.
Yeah.
You're his child. He's going to feed you. If you trust in Him, He will walk with you. Walk with Him, He will walk with you. This is our God. And I will come out always, I still do. I listen. I sat down, reflected, and I walked back through my paces and realized that normal lifetime, a normal everyday person, 60 years, I'd be outside on the street running about, I'd be gone by now. But this is 60 years of God's grace.
No.
60 years of God's direction. 60 years of giving thanks for the Father who brought me from nothing to something.
No, definitely.
60 years of listening, understanding, and following Him. And there's 60 more to come.
No.
So if it's any person, this is your God. This is your master. Life does not always go the same road. We do not always walk the same road. We come in the same entrance and we leave at different times and different places. But it is your journey, and I can't walk your journey. Your journey is your journey. We all will walk the same road today. I will go around this bend, you may go straight down the road, you may go around there, but the end is just the same.
Yeah.
Follow the steps that your Father's laid for you. He's awesome God. Follow His steps, follow His routine. And you will surpass where not your expectation, not His expectation, but what God's expectation is for you.
Yeah.
That's what you need to surpass.
Definitely. One of the barriers, or I guess people that help push us in one direction or the other. When you look at our parents or the leaders in the church, what is the general trend in society? Obviously, you did not take that traditional path that person might have been pushing you in, but did you still have support from your parents in saying that, yeah, if this is the path you want to go down to, we still gonna support you?
This is a I never knew my father. Never knew my father. I was raised by my grandmother. Well, my mother left Barbados when I was 17 or 18.
All right.
So from 17, 16, 17, I was on my own. So my direction and focus was always with, always had an inner driving force in terms of what my mother always made sure we went to church, and we had that focus. But I was always involved in Sunday school, in Young Avengers. I was always close to the Lord somehow for some reason. The Lord kept me for some reason close to Him. I could have been on the road doing a myriad of stuff. Yeah. Could have been. And that was it. So my road that I walked was not from mother's direction, father's direction. But it was listening to people and seeing some people will tell you something and knowing right from wrong and moving in that spirit, where I knew right from wrong. And people will always tell me, you're a good young man. Yeah. You will get, this will pass, you will get better. And that's still someone directing you. It's not your mother and your father. Yeah. But it's someone taking time to say it to you, to mentor in your life. You need to do this or you need to do that. And once again, you having the forethought, the foresight to listen and not say that's nonsense. Yeah. I guess I've always had the foresight when some person said to me, hey, why not try this, why not do that, without having a mother and father directly, that I have moved in that vein. But sometimes our parents, it takes a village to raise a child. Mm-hmm. It takes the community just to look after one individual. Yeah. You have to be willing to open and not be narrow-minded. I find a lot of our youth today, if they're on the street, you come and tell them something, they say, man, I don't want to hear you. Don't let that stop you from talking to them. No. Because sometimes what you say will change that person's life. Might not change it today. Mm-hmm. But you sow a seed that's going to bear some fruit. And that's happened to me. People have sown stuff in my life, they have spoken to my life, and it has ordered and altered my steps in terms of my direction. Wow. So even though mother and father weren't there, it was still enough in me to take wise counsel and for the Lord to provide that counsel and that guidance to me, unknowingly. Looking back, know from where I am, that was Him being purposeful, that was Him directing the life where you want to go.
All right. And I guess on the, now that you've been a parent for a while, on the flip side of that, how did any of your children say, hey, I don't want to go to university, anything like that, I want to take this less traditional path?
No, all my children are individuals. I think I have allowed them to I raise my children. So I have never heard someone say to me as a child, I love you. Think about that. Wow. I've never heard someone say to me as a child that I love you. Wow. That's something that we don't do. That's something that as parents, we don't do that. I promised myself that if I have 50 children, they will know me, they will know that I love them. So from the time they were small, I tell my children, love them, hug them, kiss them. I have come along with them in terms of each child, as they come up, I've learned. So I am not unnecessarily academic, but each child is different. And my life has taught me that each child has strength, and I need to learn. And as a parent, you know your children's strength or weaknesses. You know the individuality. Yeah. I took the time to know each child. I have 5 children. Each child individually. I know I have favorites. Yeah. So I know who were more academic, who would do whatever the case may be. And that's how I raise my children. With love, with understanding, I don't know everything. I raised them in church. I was working at the church, so they went to church every Sunday. They were involved in all aspects of the church and Lord's life. So each person has a relationship with God. So I have a daughter. I call her Rebel. I call her Rebel. She's ready since she read it on Monday.
Yeah.
So I've been saying, my church, probably she's far from God, whatever the case may be. So all of my children, I make sure that each child has a vehicle. Right? And so her vehicle was playing the fool one day. I went to the mechanic, he jacked up the wheel. The whole strut came down.
Wow.
And she said, well, that was faith. I smiled because I said, and myself, no, that wasn't faith. That was God. But she interpreted that as faith. It means that right there and then for me, that was awesome because she realized what we've been trying to teach her, that is, that God is in control. I have a son who does a Hawthorn. Andre now has 2 children. He's in St. Philip.
Right.
He did song, whatever the case may be. When Andre was going to school, he brought his report home to me one day, and I said to him, "You're satisfied with this?" He said, "No." I said, "Me neither, that's your report. You're not going to school for me." That changed his life forever. He left Carmel, went to UE, did 2 degrees, upper second class honors, and Andre computer stuff, 2 children, married. And one day he was going away, and I went to the airport with him and his cousin. So I was there, his cousin's dad was there. When he was leaving, I said, "Hi, son." I hugged him, kissed him. And his cousin said, "Your father's hug you, kiss you?" He said, "Yeah." But he knows I love him, I tell him I love him. How many parents tell their children nowadays that I love you? They don't. They don't know. No one ever told them.
No.
That's the difference what we have now. I tell mine, do you tell yours? Lisa don't tell your son or daughter, "Hey, I love you." Irrespective of whatever you do, I love you. If you want to go count sheep, I support you 100%. If you want to go and build houses, all of us can be doctors and lawyers, whatever the case may be. Understand your child's direction and purpose. Then follow his direction. And that's what I do. That's what I've done for mine.
I think it definitely comes down to, it's not so much exactly what you're doing, unless of course it's something illegal like you're not going to be doing, but like why you're doing it. But listening to you and all the things that you would have done, it sounded like a lot of what you did really revolved around, helping other persons, especially helping the space you're in, especially with what you did with the church. You didn't have to cut lawns for the church, but you were part of this church community, and so however you wanted to help. And I think that a lot of time we think, hey, I'm gonna be a doctor because doctors make a lot of money, or I'm gonna be a lawyer because lawyers make a lot of money. And not so much, I wanna be a doctor because I just really love helping people. I just really love, serving other than being there for other person. I think that it's definitely important to have that. And as you say, with love, not only knowing that your family loves you, but that you love what you're doing. Like what you said with your son is perfect. That he's not going to school for you.
Oh,
the degrees can't help you. It can only help him, and it definitely has to be something that you love and want to do. When you look at yourself now, so you would have had lots of successes in the past, success now, I'm sure you would have helped your children, they have their successes, you would have mentored person, they have their successes. Do you think that this is the end of the road for you, that you can sit back and relax, or are you still driven to improve even more, succeed even more?
I'm self-employed. So self-employed people has some of the lowest life expectancies in the world. Because say we drive ourselves to the grave. We're always pushing. For me, I have 6 grandchildren. I did not envision ever have 6 little people that I can say that once again, look at each person's personality, looking at mine, looking at whatever the case may be, that me being who I am, they're going to be who they are. Exemplary young people. Their parents are, they're going to be. So I will continue to mentor in their lives. I will continue to serve the Lord and to build out the gifts that He's given me. Sometimes we try to hide from rules. The Lord calls us to do one thing, we sidestep, or we're too young, and I've done a lot of that in terms of, evolve with this. But the Lord has brought me always back to Hawthorn, always back to. I went some years ago to a conference called Promise Keepers.
Right.
Dealing with young men, dealing with men, dealing with whatever the case may be. That's what I am doing at church. I'm dealing with men. I'm dealing with boys. I taught Sunday school, and all the young boys I taught in Sunday school. I taught the young adult, youth for the young adults class. All the young boys that I taught at Sunday school got married.
Right.
All of them.
Right.
Even my son got married. So that's a testimony in terms of the witness and the mentoring you could put into their lives. I brought them from the world into the book. One guy always said to me, "Sir, you taught the worst things, but you should bring them back to what the Lord said. Because this is the way you need to walk, this is the way you need to be. And that's the way I walk."
Yeah.
We're not always perfect. Every day is your salvation. Every day is your saving grace. Every day you gotta get on your knees. It is not a one-time shot and fix. But direction and purpose, the steps are ordered by the Lord. You just need to follow them. You might go down the road, you might go left, I might go right, you go in the corner, you go in the bend. Your life might have bends and curves and hills, and I might walk straight. Whatever your purpose is, He will bring you back on your course. You might try to run from it, or you might figure something else, but you will find yourself coming back to a set course or a set way, because that is where the Lord wants you to be. You just need to accept and let Him direct. And never accept and let Him direct.
And that's really amazing. And I think what you said, and it's almost, I guess, a full circle. You didn't really leave the church, but it started there, and that now you're back with this men's ministry, back with leading in the church.
Yes.
I'm sure right now you would have met a lot of young men, probably like how you were then. How has your experience in that men's ministry been? I know that's something that, looking across our district, across the region, we hear a lot about women's league, women's fellowship, a lot of stuff. And we have men's group, but they're not always as strong, not always as out there. How has your experience really been with this men's ministry?
Men. We say that the men come to church and don't do nothing. That's what the general church say. And we as men, we have an interesting dynamic. As a young person coming up, like, you're a young person in church. So the hymns are not what you want to sing. You want something that's more exciting. You want something that's more meaningful to you. You want something that's fit your generation. But this is your generation. When I was in the youth, we wanted upbeat hymns and whatever the case is. And I went to Virginia, and my sweetest service was a simple Methodist service with Methodist hymns. Awesome. If you preach or talk down to your congregation every Sunday, you can come, hear the sermon, does your job, and go home. As our strength in terms of men's ministry, my concept in terms of men's ministry, when I had this call in at church we did at Hawthorn, we did every third Sunday a coffee morning. And when I left and was involved in doing stuff, working with kids, maybe that, I find that went out the window. You need to find a focal point for your young men or your young people. If you find a focal point, you bring people together. My idea was that we would rekindle coffee morning, but that the men would do it. At the same, that thought came to me, and it was going around with it. I approached some ladies to tell me they would support me. And that's critical, is that you support you get. And the minister had called for a men's meeting a Sunday after church. And she said she needs the men to get up and take and be involved. Where there are no men If the church has a void, the Lord's going to fix the void. So all the women came up to take up all the rules, whatever the case may be. And the men were coming to church. I said, no. No one said to them, they want something done. We met 20 men Sunday morning after church. The Reverend said she wanted the men to be involved and take up. And got up and said, I'd rather have this idea. They want to do some coffee morning, or whatever the case may be. She said, okay, cool. You're in charge of the men. I said, it's just my idea, Rev. I ain't in charge.
Just
see, you in
throw
charge.
Everything at you.
You're in charge of the men. And that was it. She didn't just say that. She came back and she followed up. Inspired the men. So we formed, every third Sunday we'll have coffee morning. Every third Sunday. Started with about 5 of us. Hawthorn, the men are 49, 50 active.
All right.
You don't see all of them every Sunday. But when we were doing coffee morning before COVID, I would indicate what the menu would be for the Sunday. And some guys would be putting it out. Then some guys would be involved in putting it out, sharing it, whatever the case may be. And then from that, the following year, I had asked that when there is the committee to appoint stewards and whatever, I asked some of the men to start taking up positions in leadership in the church. Coffee morning, focal point. Came into a couple being stewards, a couple being ushers. In that year, when we had the meetings, the leaders' meetings, whatever meetings they have, a couple more took up offices. So now 90% of the men lead at Hawthorn from coffee morning. I do not like to label, when you create, I don't like the group dynamic in terms of men's fellowship, women's league, whatever the case may be. You limit people. Wow. At Hawthorn, we had women's league, women's fellowship, this, that. People group themselves. Wow. Depends on the economic circumstance or where they're from, how you see yourself. Right. I see myself as a child of God. Right. You and I are equal. I shouldn't be at church and seeing you different than me. In men's ministry, it's not black or white. It is not rich nor poor. No. The men are in ministry. The men are in church to serve. The men are there to lift up and build up. God has called the men to lead. The men are just taking out the rightful roles and leading. My men, yes, I can't sing. We formed a choir with 15 men. We have a lady that's a trained alto singer. She trains the men choir. The organist, music director, said to me one day, to see if something works that you're doing, or to see if people are doing it because of you, remove yourself. I moved myself from the men's choir. I must be the senior choir. The men's choir is 15 or 20 strong, and I'm not in it. Nice. And it's continued. The men are involved in the church, and I'm not in it. More of this will come up. We have another discussion on the men and the growth of Hawthorn, because we had a focal point, and we had a minister who allowed us to grow and continue to support us. She said she loves her men. So there are 50 men. She has 50 men at church, and she's not married. That's not a very good thing. But she has 50 men. And we have gone from fundraisers, and we just did sound system. We just did a couple of things that church needed. That's the men's doing. We support the whole congregation, but the congregation admires the fact that the men have stepped forward. The men are singing. And the church has to support. You can't tell them they don't come to church. You can't say to them, oh, they don't come to church, well, just sit down. Say to them that you want them to do something. Make them feel needed. If you are in the group, if you're in the men's fellowship, you're in a group, you'll have whatever the case may be. Men's ministry encompasses all of the men in your congregation. In Hawthorn, all of the men. They're different skill sets. I may not be able to sing, you might be reading notices. All of the men have a talent, a God gift, a God-given talent that you need. We need all hands, feet, toes, whatever the case may be. All of the men at the church participate in the men's ministry. All of the men. So all the men, unless you're invalid or got one leg and can't come to church, are acting. Even then, if there's a cake I want or 10 drinks I want, the men provide it for whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's been the success of the men's ministry. It has become relevant in this time.
All right.
And we need to be relevant.
Yeah.
We need to be relevant in terms of what we're doing. And Hawthorn has found a way to bring the men, and the men have found a way to be relevant and current in this time. So that's our successes.
Yeah.
Relevant and current. I will say all the time. You must have a leader who understands that having a vibrant group and allowing them to move as they're supposed to does not stop the church, does not stop the minister from being minister. It allows the minister to have a greater arm and greater strength.
Yeah.
And that's been our strength.
And I love that it didn't just start with some men in notice board saying, hey, we want men to do this, or just calling men to do. But that you started with that coffee or building that kind of community. And from there, people naturally, as you say, the men were called to lead, and naturally the men, they felt confident that, yeah, I'm going to take up this role. I really love that you guys started with that sense of community, and that was what was driving everything that followed.
Focal point. You need a focal point where that everybody has a buy-in, and people like food, people like things, and the men. And once again, I think the key point that a lot of people miss, that I smile at, that they don't understand fully, is that in that act, they're doing service. They're serving the need of someone that comes to church and doesn't get a chance to have breakfast, somebody who's a diabetic and needs a drink, or whatever the case may be. It's an act of service. Yeah. And I think that has propelled them to realize that they need that in a sense. They need to serve, they need to give, they need to whatever the case may be. They give and they serve, and that is awesome in terms of if you look at it. Because that is what they are able to do in their ministry. And they have, from that, they're doing other things in terms of ministry. Because they're men, and in their way, they're ministering to the needs of the congregation, to the needs of God's church. Yeah. Yes, it is a Hawthorn way or Hawthorn thing, but it's also a Methodist thing to serve and to give service. Wow. So we need to put that out there. Even the young people, I don't think it is not a youth club or youth fellowship. It's really youth for the church. Yeah. And we need to encompass that youth from, if you want to do different ages, but it has to be, the group dynamic has to go, and it has to come to a point where we say all young people, different ages, they have different needs, and we need to harness that, and then we can build and go forward. Yeah. But it has to be that we recognize all young people. We recognize it's all men. We see women's fellowships and women's leagues and whatever. Women in the church. The men don't have the MCCA, men right through the Caribbean, right through the Americas. It's MCCA because it has to be. It has to be all the men, all the young people. Yeah. That's where we have to be. The group desegregation that we have in Christ has to stop. It has to be oneness. Because if you put me in a group, I can remain in that group. And I'm going to see myself with a group mentality. We need to see ourselves with the world mentality, Christ-like, limitless in terms of what we do. Yeah. The men are limitless, the youth are limitless. Up to us.
If you enjoyed the conversation between myself and Leland, leave a like and share it with a friend and somebody else who might find value in it also. This is the first series of conversation with others like Leland who have lived out their theology in and outside of the church, and were able to reap the rewards of those seeds that they sowed. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the post notifications to be notified for our future episodes in this series and all other content that we release here at South Caribbean Youth. Hope to see you next time.